In this video, we're going to start looking at the CSS for the table. We've got a rough layout going on here. Let me flip over to my style sheet, and you can see what I have defined so far. For my table itself, I have it set. I have a border property. It works like the border of everything else we've ever done. And I'm using the shortcut border property. I have it set to solid, 2 pixels wide, and black. I did the same thing for my table rows, my table headers, and my table datas. Okay, border, solid, 2 pixel black. So I want you to look, the table has a border along the outside that goes around the entire table. Each table header has a border around itself. Each table row has an border around itself. Each table data has it, so does a table row. But notice between these two cells, it's a double line, and that isn't exactly what we want. So we're going to look at that and how we can get rid of those double lines so we don't get doubles everywhere. Let's go to, but first let's start off with caption. All right, for my caption, I'm going to do an entry on my style sheet for caption. Still got that sticky keyboard. And the property we're going to look at right now for the caption is just caption side. Caption dash side. And there's 2 values we can use that. We can use top or bottom. That's top. And if you saw, I already had an example of bottom because I was testing it before I did this. We put it on bottom, the caption moves to the bottom of the table. I kind of like that one set on the top, so I'm going to leave it set to top. The top is the default. You can do whatever you like. So know that they're captions there. Now let's take a look at doing something with these borders. There is a property of our table that we can access called the border collapse property. So we'll come up here and we'll say border collapse. We're going to set our border collapse to collapse. Okay. Now what does that do? Any place that I have 2 lines right next to each other, it doesn't make sense to have 2 borders. We immediately get single lines. Okay, so the border collapse property gets rid of all those double lines. Any place there's a double line, it turns it into a single line, which looks a lot better for us. Let's do, for our cells, let's add a little bit of padding. See what 3 pixels looks like. That looks a little bit better. They don't look completely crammed up against the sides now. I should also mention the opposite of border collapse, which is the default, separate. Okay, and if we do separate, we can add in border spacing. Let's do 3 pixels there. And that adds space between the pixels and make it a little bit more radical. Okay, so we add space between those double borders. I tend to prefer collapse. I think most people do most of the time. Okay, change that to 1 pixel for my border size. Didn't seem to make a huge difference. I'm going to go 5 pixels on my padding. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Most of the rest of the formatting we do with tables is really the same formatting we use on anything else. Let's do width. Let's do our table rows, our table data, and our table header. So remember right now our tables, our cells are expanding or collapsing depending on what the content is that we have inside. Let's let's make them width. Let's do I don't know, 100 pixels. Now they're consistently laid out. We could do the same thing for our table. We could specify the width for our table. Actually, for these columns over here, I don't know if I like the lines. And I think I would like to center these words. So let's go in here. We'll do text line center. So I've told you before not to overuse center. This is one place where it probably looks pretty good. I like what it did with lunch there, and the rest of these look pretty good. We have even rows. We could do a background color for our table. So this is the entire table. There we go. I think I like my caption. Font weight bold. There we go. I like that a little bit better. My caption, let's put a little bit of margin. Put 5 pixels of margin around it. I like that. All right, what if I wanted to change the formatting on one thing? What if I wanted my table headers to have different background color? Let me do that. So a lot of this is playing around, finding what works. I mean, there's logical answers to all of it, but if you're not sure, go ahead and play. You're not going to break anything. You can always change it back. Do background color. What white like on those? Yeah, I'm not sure I like that. Don't like that. Don't know if there is a light yellow. All right, I won't mess with the background color on that, but you get the idea. Play with your settings, get something that you like, get your layout the way you want it to look. One more thing before we go. Notice these are centered vertically. You can change that as well using the vertical align property. So text align centers our content left and right. We can use vertical align. And let's do top, just so you can see the different values. I like them centered the way they are. So vertical align top moves everything. So if it's bigger than your text, this box is bigger, it puts everything at the top. We can also do bottom. And it puts it at the bottom by default. Leave its middle. The default is middle. Okay. So text align top, vertical align top, middle, and bottom. Text align, we can do left, center, right. I believe we can also do justified, which does the same thing that does in any of our text editors like Word or things. When we justify, it takes everything out to the margins. And the last thing I'm going to show you in this video is there's a hover effect, kind of like what you do for links. There's a pseudo link. So if I have, we don't really need it on what we're doing right here. But if I had a whole bunch of tabular data, maybe I have 100 rows or 50 rows of stuff, scientific data or something that's harder to look through. This is a pretty cool effect that helps people find what they're looking for. So when somebody hovers over a table row, we can change the color. To help them see where they're at. Oops. I might have just closed my CSS file. I did. Remember where I saved it. Guess it saved though. Refresh. Now, since I did row span and column span here, you can see, but when I hover over certain rows, it turns the background color to, I set it to black and the foreground color to white, and helps me see what row I'm looking at. Okay, so it doesn't make a huge difference on this tiny table, but if we were generating a bunch of rows, maybe loading some data from a database into a table, computer generating it using a for loop, so we don't have to type all the TDs, TD. Then you could use the hover effect so that people, as they go through the table, can find things easier. All right, your assignment for this week is going to be to create a table on your web page that shows, I'll give you the details in class, but it's going to show all the CCP courses that you can take as part of your lab at 4 County. You're going to list the course numbers, the course names, and how many semester hours each class is worth. And I'll give you the details of that in class or in the lesson plans.